Aloha. Today I wanted to add what I forgot, or just what I wanted to add to the last video. Didn't really forget, but I realized that there's more perspectives that I would have added, but the video was already long enough, and I pretty much spoke on what I wanted to speak about. But to expand it and to kind of overview it for a second, the main focus of that video was to bring light to the separation that happens. The separation that happens between the individual and the soul, and the collective individual, or the collective individual, however you want to see it, and the Most High, the energy that is the spirit, beyond the physical reality. The physical reality, as I mentioned in previous videos, it's inundated with those entities that have chosen to celebrate the physical reality and trap themselves here at an expense. That expense is the separation from the Most High Spirit, from those energies that allow you to progress in expanding your energy. You cannot, if you vest your energy into the destructive intelligence, the destructive program, you will max out. You can only destroy so much. You can be the smartest destructive villain in the entire galaxy, but you will still be contained to that galaxy, because there are other dimensions beyond that realm that vibrate on a space where you won't be able to even enter into that vibration. Just as the laws of vibration is, the lower frequencies have to adjust to the higher frequencies. So when you have lower frequencies that are trying to get into a higher frequency, the only way that they can do that is by lowering the higher frequency to make that gap, or that bridge between those two vibrations, more habitable. This is where the so-called interdimensional entities come in, that the New Age community is referring to as aliens and extraterrestrials, and the Annunaki, the creators, the Annunaki, and all this other stuff. Now, being that these energies, the storylines have some kind of reality, there is some kind of storyline in relation to the human story, the earth story, these puppeteers behind the scenes, the history as a whole. There's so much more that we don't even know about yet. See, we're just pulling from our own intuition. Is basically like painting in the dark, because you really have to feel this from no confirmations from the mainstream. In fact, it's counterproductive energy coming from the mainstream when you're going into this information, because you really just have to feel it, start there, and then venture out on your own to go even further. When I went into the New Age community in 2012, that's when I wanted to explore what that world was. So they talk about crystals, they talk about sacred geometry, they talk about sacred symbols, they talk about your energy bodies, the chakras, the extra dimensions, your spirit, your soul, the Most High, in their own way. All of these topics are interwoven into that system, which is why it's so magnetic. Like, it pulls you in and it locks you into that space if you start to turn that reality, excuse me, into who and what you are. But that's not who and what you are. That's just another version of a box. That's another version of reality that is designed to maintain control on another level, maintain a vibration. Just like when you listen to channelers and they say, well, we can't reveal that to you right now. That information is not available. We can't, because they have limitations, and the collective has limitations. There's all these various layers of limitations. Individuals have limitations. We don't, one of the ways we stop ourselves is by, I don't want to hear that right now. I'm not ready for that. There's some information, like obviously the flat earth stuff. I didn't start looking into that until within the last 2 years now. About 2 years now. I hadn't started looking at a lot of information. It takes some time. Jiddu Krishnamurti, I deeply respect the information that he shares, but there was something that was not ready inside of me when I first came up to understanding that he existed. I was like, man, there's something to this, but there's something to it at the same time that I wasn't ready for. And I didn't actually start to really hear him until another a year and a half down the road from when I first had one of his videos just laying around. So when that space is actually a limbo space, because people are open to, and that's what happens to the younger generation who wants to be new. They want to be part of this new whatever it is, because the old is destructive, out of balance, sick and diseased, and based upon control, power, and manipulation, while the new age is the polar opposite of that, from the outside looking in, where it's all about love and light. It's all about production, creation, taking care of people, being sweet. That's what it puts itself off to people. What I'm saying is that this is like the difference between the individual and the collective that I was referring to in the previous video. The individual is not to blame really ever, because it's never an individual. Like there's so many different energies that are involved in these kind of storylines of control. It's really about how it starts in the collective measures of manipulation and programming. Just as you can see that the political scene, you can see the presidential debate last night, Christopher Columbus Day today, you can see how the quote being that the people who win the war are the ones who write the history books, and all the other history books get thrown out. They get to write the story and tell the story how they want. This is the example of Christopher Columbus Day, Thanksgiving Day in Native America. That's an example of Christmas and the Jesus programming, and Christianity, and the everything being about the Christian way of life, which was one of the main forces used to enslave not only the entire earth plane, but the psyche of humanity as a whole. It's another box of limitation. So when you understand that all of that exists, and you understand that Oprah and all these celebrities talking for the UN, telling you to vote, telling you to register to vote and do all this stuff, manipulating you with Hollywood, manipulating you and your kids with cartoons, manipulating you with these television shows to think and act a certain way. And they are the manifestations. They are sitting on top of the bones of the system that is still designed to make you not think about, these are the same programs that are telling you to celebrate the Christmas, celebrate the Christopher Columbus Day, vote, get out there, give your power away, be a part of the slave system. If you can see that all these things are intertwined and existing, and you know that the so-called New Age movement is very mainstream already. If Oprah is having Deepak Chopra and Eckhart Tolle on her television show, if David Wilcock and Corey Goode and the Ancient Aliens, all these guys, and what was that other guy, George Norrie from Coast to Coast Radio, if all these individuals are on Ancient Aliens, which is on the History Channel, which is telling you basically the Anunnaki story, which is another version of creating separation and the slave mind. The Anunnaki story, the essence of the Anunnaki story is to make you think, just like the monkey evolution program was created, to make you think that you are a slave. The monkey evolution program inherently makes you think that you're a slave because you are a slave to the animalistic behavior of being nothing but a monkey with a smartphone, of being nothing but a monkey that came from a dinosaur, that came from a cosmic mistake, manifested into having a smartphone. This is what these programs are. The next generation of enslavement, the psychological version of that enslavement, the story will be from the Ancient Aliens Anunnaki perspective of, because this plays two sides at the same time. The first side is, you are a slave. You were created by these higher beings, these extraterrestrials, which gives this is the trifecta actually. It gives credence to the secret space program and all the other extraterrestrials that people are worshiping as their saviors in the New Age community. It gives credibility to the slave mentality, and it also opens up the door to the New Age, the orchestrated New Age version of reality. Oh, and the one thing I did miss on there, it also creates the idea of enslavers on a universal perspective. So it creates that perspective of the colonists are not the worst ones. They've only enslaved people as a result of the extraterrestrial Anunnaki enslavers who once enslaved them and made them dig for gold. That's what the Anunnaki story is. That they came down here, they needed gold for whatever purposes. They genetically engineered the humans that we are today, and other types of humans, to dig for gold for them as slaves. And then there was a revolt, and then they left, and then there's this whole thing of now we are living and existing how we are today, and that's the whole story. That's the Anunnaki story that's being pumped out right there. That's heavily ingrained in the Ancient Aliens program, which is less than 1 degree away from the secret space program and the New Age agenda. And I just laid out to you how there is no power in that reality in reference to human existence, human understanding of our reality. There's no connection to the Most High, and that's the intent of these storylines. It doesn't matter how intricate they are. It doesn't matter how believable they are, how connected to all these other stories they are. If they are sitting in front of you telling you that you're a fucking slave, that you are just, something that was secondary to something else, there's an intention there, because that shit all still exists in the physical reality. And once you take one step out of the physical reality, you are directly connecting to your Most High Spirit. You can already see this when you experience your dreams and you fly in your dreams. That's still who you are, existing in another vibration for that moment. You're communicating with your guides, your angels, your higher self, your ancestors when you go into ceremonial space, when you go into psychedelics, when you go into those higher vibrations. You can still experience those realities by being still anchored here in this physical reality. That is more of who and what you are than anything that was genetically modified by whatever. And that is more of your storyline. That is the storyline that won't be told to you, because if that's told to you, then you will have a deconstruction of the haves and the have-nots programming. You will have an awareness of the system of duality. You will have an awareness of the divine masculine and the divine feminine, which will inherently empower the masses of people outside of being enslaved by psychological mind control programs. The secret space program exists to empower the so-called powers that be. It also exists to bring in the idea of extraterrestrials and the universe as they created it. The globe model, the solar system. That was all invented by enslavers not that long ago to create a gap in your physical reality, in your psychology, in your spirit, from realizing that it is the you that is you is far beyond this physical reality and far more divine than they want to tell you. Now, the perspective, like I said, the perspective of the Annunaki story, which is being promoted by the Ancient Aliens History Channel, Discovery Channel, National Geographic, all these alternative spin-offs of those channels on YouTube, talking about deeper layers of the stories. And you have the channelers who are talking about the Anunnaki even further, and they're scared to talk about this stuff, or they just don't want to talk about, largely because these stories are fucking made up in some kind of way and amplified to further program individuals and masses of people. My main point was showing this right here. This so-called disclosure. This disclosure movement that was set up by this artificial one set up by Stephen Greer back in the 90s, where he gathered all these government officials and outside officials to tell you that they're hiding secret, aliens and technology and all this stuff. They have it, all this shit. Great. My point is, what does that do? When they finally pull that trigger, it will do nothing but empower the system as a whole. The inherent energy of having a secret space program it means secret power. It means secret because of what? Because they have the power to keep it secret. Because they have domain over you. This is why you have the segue between the secret space program and the very not secret space program called Ancient Aliens. Corey Goode and David Wilcock. David Wilcock showing his face, being out there heavily locked into the New Age community on a regular basis. Corey Goode the same way, and all those other secret people out there. That is the connection right there. That is not a coincidence. That is on purpose. This is to get as many people locked in as possible with as little information as possible, because the story gets created by the individual. The topics get out there, and it's like reading a book that just kind of like piecing together all of these other storylines. It's the same thing. It's like reading a book where the pages of that book exist from different channels, different perspectives. So you get 5 pages from this person, you get 5 pages from this channel, you get 5 pages from this from that person, you get 10 pages from this documentary, you get 12 pages from that documentary, you get 4 pages from this person, and then your storyline becomes obvious to you. That's what's going on right now in reference to this New Age agenda, this secret space program, and the setting of the foundation of the new enslavement program. This is why the Annunaki story is so big out there, because it also creates another bad guy in a sense. It's like, well, you created us just for slaves and gold. What that does is that takes the focus from what has happened, boots on the ground here in the last however many centuries of the colonial program leading up to today. And then you can just activate, oh, well, there's aliens. There's bigger things that we have to pay attention to. So you need to start paying attention to this and stop thinking about, your racist problems or the race agenda or all this. We need to put those things aside and start thinking about taking care of the earth and what's going on here with these aliens. That's another part of the story. You can already see that with how we've been programmed with Hollywood. This is why the alien agenda is locked into Hollywood. So you have this relationship, this blending of storylines of fiction and nonfiction and science fiction that are creating a reality for the masses and the individual. And what happens is the so-called powers that be play off of however that storyline, whatever the most vibrant storyline is being received by the masses, they activate that into your reality through Hollywood, through music, through the celebrities, through the politicians, through manipulating your storylines, changing history with the History Channel, focusing history with the History Channel, manipulating the idea of progress and human existence with Discovery Channel and National Geographic and the university system and NASA and the evolution theory and the Big Bang theory. All of these things get manipulated and amplified to tell a story. But the story, the biggest story that exists in those stories being told is who's telling you that story. Where this information is coming from. Why that information exists, how it exists, and what it's telling individuals and the collective subconsciously. And we get caught up in those gaps. So like I said, the Anunnaki story exists to get people caught up in the gap of still believing that they are secondary to this extraterrestrial entity or entities that created you as a slave. So it's a double down. You are a slave, number one. Number two, there's a being that has more power than you, that has more whatever than you, that you should be afraid of, you should be worshiping, looking forward to saving you as your savior. This ain't nothing but the new Bible. It ain't nothing but a new Christianity. On top of that, it sets the undertone, like I said, to taking the focus away from those who have enslaved the people in our actual family right now. We can understand you still have a slave name. your corporate name. You have people, so-called African Americans, which are the Aboriginal Americans, walking around here thinking that their ancestors were brought over here by the Europeans for slavery, when that's just a bold-faced lie, because the majority of Aboriginal Americans were already here. So-called black people were already here and around the entire world. That's a story of power that they're trying to both keep from people from knowing and distracting people from, because it gives those slave holders the power. That's not what this is about. This is it. Your storyline is deeper. So just like the Annunaki storyline, it is deeper than that. And once you go into that, you'll start to realize it. So you are not a slave. But if you believe that ancestors before you were slaves at their essence, because they were brought over here or whatever and all that other stuff, then that takes away your power. That's the intent of this New Age secret space program agenda. It's like, well, you know what? There's even extraterrestrials that came and enslaved humanity. So we're just doing what our extraterrestrial ancestors did to us. And you can't be blaming us because this is what's in our genetic coding and all this other shit. Like, all right, tell whatever story you want to tell. Point being, the distraction from the golden DNA of the Aboriginal and Indigenous peoples, of the majority of this entire earth plane, the people who haven't separated themselves from spirit, that is actually more important and more vibrant than any kind of other distraction out there. So I just wanted to emphasize in this video the obvious distraction of these next topics I'm going to read off. Go into details of the Anunnaki story, kind of expand how the secret space program is interwoven into the New Age agenda, how that's interwoven into the next New Age, New World agenda, the United Nations, the amplification of how you view your universe, your understanding, your false understanding of your universe, which inherently empowers the enslavers. That illusion, the university system. This is why this stuff exists. It's like you gotta go all out. They got the university system. If they didn't have the New Age right now, if they didn't have the secret space program, people would be ripping these university systems apart because of the fact that they are largely based upon illusion, enslavement, distraction, and limitation. Period. End of fucking story. They try to tell you that it's for they're giving you this degree, these diplomas, these doctorates and all this other shit. That ain't nothing but slave papers, because the entire system is based upon enslavement. And for people who are still who's still holding on to this hope for this system, within the fiat currency system, within the maritime admiralty system, still enslaved, not thinking outside of the box, literally. To finally when will we end this shit? When will we end the enslavement of the people? Not for you, 30, 40, 50, 60-year-old individual. For these babies who are totally innocent to the information and the garbage that people are understanding right now, but just don't want to go out and say anything about it because of whatever. Either distraction or fearful or whatever it is. I'm speaking to the people who are right on the lip, on the cusp of going further into discovering what this information is all about. Because if you're just not ready, you're just not ready. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. If you don't feel guided to explore this information, your actual history, explore how these stories connect to each other, explore what they mean to the individual and the collective for the sake of your babies. Understand, understand, and overstand how this storyline has manifested into this reality, the details of this story, so we can unravel how it is we can heal ourselves, the justice of Ma'at that still lingers underneath the poisonous system, the diseased system that still runs today as if it's the betterment or the next evolutionary step of humanity. This is why you have transhumanism and the addiction, the amplification of technology, the amplification of genetically modified foods, as if you fucking need that at all. Who the fuck even came into this house talking about we need to genetically modify foods? If somebody walked into a longhouse and said, I got this genetically modified food, that motherfucker would be kicked out in a heartbeat. Because everybody would be like, why? Who the fuck let this guy in here with this shit that's going to kill my baby? Literally putting it in your baby food. This is not an oversimplification of it. This shit exists right now. There's fluoride in your water. There's birth control pills in your baby food. Estrogen in your baby food. Cancer in the plastics. Shit being sprayed in the air. The soil is being messed up. The parasitic program goes on and on and on. When will it stop? Is my question. The only time it will stop is when the people start to realize that it exists and start to realize that they have to have the power to stop this, first by understanding and stop looking the other way. Because you can understand at the same time the entities who have totally, to the umpteenth degree, separated themselves from spirit, from compassion, from empathy, do not give one shit about you. This is the energy of the puppeteers behind the puppets that I'm speaking of, that we won't address or focus on. And you don't have to have a name. You don't have to have a face. You just have to understand. When I say that right now, and when other people have said it, look, these entities do not have 1 ounce of compassion, empathy, or love for you. And the way that they can remain in so-called power is to make it look like they have compassion, empathy, and love for you. This is why you have Hollywood. This is why you have the music industry. This is why you have football and baseball and basketball and golf and all these other fucking distractions around to keep you worshiping the ball, worshiping this program which inherently enslaves you. Eating all these hot dogs and bacons and hamburgers and all this other shit that's out there to destroy you. Commercials convincing you, if they got to make a commercial about it, you don't need it. So if you don't need it and they got to make a commercial about it, it's not because of the money. That's the illusion. There's a sole purpose, a sole definition behind all of these programs. Just as you can understand, you are the soul having the mind bridge that manifests into the body. You have to understand the magic of this illusion also affects you that same way. So if you're just thinking, it's just okay to eat genetically modified food. It's just a little bit of cancer for my baby. It's okay to be involved in, the football and the basketball and the baseball and all that other stuff, because it's just good fun and all that other stuff. Flip it and realize that that is actual energy that is being focused. These Super Bowl people, they take it to the extreme of really seeing these Super Bowl rituals that are going on. People hear about this stuff. You don't even have to know about that. Did you just understand and see that those symbols mean something? That those moves mean something? That there's something a little bit off with these celebrities when they're in that energy bubble. So if you can understand that, and that's meant to have you looking at Beyonce's ass, to make you shaking your ass, listening to Bruno Mars, doing all that stuff, that's on the body level. That's to get you distracted and locked into the body perspective. My point is, if the body is 2 layers away from who you really are, what kind of programming is happening to your mind? And even further, what kind of programming is going on to affect you and your relationship, this body and mind relationship as the soul? What is happening there? Because these so-called powers that be, that have no compassion for you, no love for you, who will poison you in a heartbeat, who will destroy you in a heartbeat, they know exactly what this stuff means, what it's doing to your psyche, what it's doing to your connection between the body and the soul. They know exactly what this is. Why you have mind control programming. It's taken to the extreme in the government programs because they're trying to look for ways out. They're trying to look for other ways to manipulate and control. So what's happening on the collective scale? You have Hollywood that softens the gap of history. It softens the gap, that history that was created by the enslavers, by these individuals who have no compassion for you, these entities who have no compassion for you, the masses. Narrow down all the way down to however you want. But you can see there is a very definite version of reality when you say colonists, settlers. There's a trend to enslavement. There's a trend to genocides. There's a trend to massacres. Not saying that this hasn't existed in other forms to other people in other ways. But I am speaking about the trend. Not the individual little, it's not little. I don't mean little as in to discredit what has happened to the smaller groups. What I'm saying is that there is a trend over centuries and a focus of energy. Why you have the supremacy program, what that even means. In reference to the fact that we are called minorities on an earth plane where we are all the majority. The math of that is not hard to see, that there is a psychology involved in the amplification of things that add up to genocide and massacres, which is why you have the reason why you are called a minority, to take your power away, to take your connections away, to create gaps, to add another version, another layer of empowerment to the supremacy program. So if you have supremacy and that mentality, on an earth plane that is the minority, there's a reason for that. There is also a science to that. I said many times over, Dr. Francis Cress Welsing goes into this heavily. If you are still having difficulty with understanding a large part of the reason why there is a supremacy program, why there are these massacres and genocides that have a trend, the colonization of Africa, the almost extinction of the Aboriginal Australians, the almost extinction of the Haitian people, Haiti, the Taino people, the Polynesian people, the Native Americans, the South Americans, Papua New Guinea. The exception to the rules of other genocides and massacres. I don't have a lack of compassion for that. I understand that. What I'm saying is that mentality also exists in the program to distract us from realizing the intention of the entire system as a whole. To amplify also this oneness sort of, there is no focus of this. It's only everybody, the good people against the bad people. The story is way more complicated than that. There's more information there. And for our children, we owe it to our children, the future generations, to figure out what this is to the depths. Otherwise, we'll just be accepting this artificial shift, this artificial change for the better, like Obama and the civil rights. And the 14th Amendment. Consistent slavery. Intellectual slavery. So Hollywood softens the gap of history. The education system does the same thing. Formalizes it for you. The Annunaki softens the gap of reactions to realizing that these stories exist to the colonial people and saying, oh, well, the aliens did it too. Come on, they did it before us. You can't be mad at us. Also, you're still a fucking slave. You were created by these aliens to dig for gold. So, might as well just keep being a slave. It sets the tone for this solar system, this university system, the universe, the artificial universe that was created for your enslavement. Sets the foundation to the History Channel's Ancient Aliens and the New Age agenda and the New World agenda. And this savior programming and this alien agenda that's being manipulated through Hollywood. It's one big ass story. So if you experience colonialism on the earth plane, then you will be open more to accepting the fact that, oh, well, there's also colonialism in the universe. The Annunaki did it. They just do this and they go around. So it makes sense. They just shifted it to extend the storyline for you to believe in giving your time away, in giving your power away, because you are powerless. You're just a slave. It doesn't matter how many books they write out there. They don't make it fucking real. Zecharia Sitchin, Eric Von Daniken, Ancient Aliens, all these other people around there. It don't matter what they say, how they say it. If the shit don't feel right, investigate it for yourself and take it a step further, and you'll see what feels right. And even if it doesn't feel right, it'll feel right sometime in the future. It's just a matter of letting go of, first off, letting go of the stuff that we have accepted as our reality that is largely being manipulated by the control grid itself. So just as easily as you can understand Saturday Night Live softens up when they put Hillary out there and Donald Trump, they soften that shit up so it makes it more digestible for your reality. So you laugh it into your reality. You laugh your way to the polls. You fear your way to the polls. You just laugh and enjoy all this other stuff, and it gives light to them. It gives humanity to these fucking people who have zip fucking humanity. Look at Hillary's laugh and her smile. Listen to Donald Trump's words. Look at how they're talking to people. That's fucking so-called town hall event. That shit it's all staged. Hillary was already caught having a staged little girl asking a question at a so-called town hall event. Florida, what happened in Florida with Bush? Kennedy assassinated. Obama obviously put in there to dampen out the fire. All these other wars. 9/11. People, these are just obvious things that add to the instability of the system. And we don't see them as one story because the mainstream mind control program acts like it doesn't exist. So if they act like it doesn't exist, and they are the masses, which are they're the representations of your friends, your peers, your co-workers, then you inherently act like it doesn't exist. That creates a consciousness, that creates your reality. We have to break that programming and realize that this is one fucking story, that 9/11 happened yesterday. That the Gulf of Tonkin in Vietnam happened yesterday, which is today. The assassination of Kennedy happened yesterday and today. The colonization of Africa, the almost extinction of the Australian Aboriginal people, the smallpox blankets of the Native Americans, the enslavement of the Aboriginal Americans. That happened yesterday and today. It's the same program, the same people, manipulating it, amplifying it out into the stars, into the new age, into the alien agenda, into the Hollywood program, into the music industry, into the education system, into the university evolution monkey mind control program, into your smartphone, into your social media, into your fucking pocket where it gives you cancer. If they can't kill you openly, they'll have you kill yourself. You eat that food. You drink that water. You go to that drive-thru. You get that new phone and put it in your bra. You get that new phone and put it in your pocket next to your fucking genitals. You get that phone and put it in your baby's hands. You get that baby food filled with estrogen and genetically modified ingredients, and you put that shit in your baby's mouth. You go to that McDonald's drive-thru and give that shit to your baby. You do all this stuff. It takes all the fucking the blame or the energy away from the layers of entities that are behind this stuff. Why? Because this shit has been programmed through generations. And it's all to create gaps within your reality so that these disembodied energies can exist. Not as focused as a demon possession, but what would be a collective demon possession? I'll tell you, it'll smell a hell of a lot like the mainstream media. It'll sound a hell of a lot like the music industry. It'll feel a hell of a lot like the university system. It'll read a lot like the political scene, the legislature being passed down by this new United Nations agenda, New World and New Age agenda. And the distraction for that would look a lot like these celebrities. Excuse me. And this Hollywood scene as a whole. This is how much this happened. There's no separation between what happened yesterday and today. Generations ago and today. Because it's the same entities. It's the same energy. Just wearing some different clothing. Wearing some Galactic Federation of Light and Sphere Being Alliance spacesuit. Telling you this is for your benefit, for your unity. That's why this secret space program exists. Because it will give, if they keep it secret and then they release it, then they have the power. Not only that, it's a fucking distraction and a blatant lie. On so many levels. But people are going to believe it because we've been mind controlled by Hollywood, by the television, by ancient aliens. Primed by David Wilcock and Corey Good going on Ancient Aliens, and George Norrie on Coast to Coast, when you're driving on the road for hours listening to all these conspiracy theorists, feared by Alex Jones and all these other conspiracy YouTube people. The next Bible is going to be this New Age agenda, secret space program, extraterrestrial, love and light perspective Bible. It's already existing. It's already there. So-called there, just playing the numbers, hoping more and more people who are escaping the fear program jump into this artificial love and light program and install that as their reality. So just as you can see, the team Love and Light back in 2012 had 100 people on the team, or 1 million or 10 million, whatever you want to call it. So let's say 10 million. There were 10 million people on the Love and Light team in 2012 that were locked into that reality and didn't go any further than that. That's their new reality. Their new reality is based upon ancient aliens and the alien guy with his hair and all that shit, Zechariah Sitchin and all that bullshit, and having the external, the secret stuff on the so-called conscious news scene. That's also part of their reality. 10 million people in 2012. 4 years later, 2016, 100 million people are now in that box, which you can go into and get out of if you continue on your path. But if you get locked in there and stay there, you are part of that team, which is going to be activated by the Oprah New Age world agenda bullshit. And those are the people who will accept this shit as the end all be all truth to their reality. From 10 million to 100 million. I don't know what the number is for the so-called powers that be, but I know that it has gone from 10 million to 1 million, and it's only been amplified by the fact that Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump are out there making that system look even more and more ridiculous. People are going to those mentalities in waves. And right when that energy, right when that rug gets pulled from underneath and that power gets activated, that's when they got people. That's when it's playing the status quo. Playing the status quo. The so-called they know where the status quo is. You can see how movies get released at certain times throughout the year. You had the Purge political movie earlier this year. Then you have Birth of a Nation coming out right now. Then you have all these other slave movies, and you even have a new movie where you have a black woman in NASA. That was one of the movies coming out on the trailer for Birth of a Nation. So that not only promotes the slave mentality and what happened back in the 60s and all that, but it also promotes the globe model and the NASA illusion. These are very intelligent programs that are out there, and these celebrities don't give one fuck about you, just as these entities don't have any compassion or empathy towards you. No love. Zero emotion. You have to see that this is how this exists. So, yeah. That's basically it. So, thank you for joining me. And until next time, from all my relations, peace, love, and harmony.